Welcome to School Zone, the show all about your local school districts here in the White Mountains. I'm your host, John Larsen. Today we have Ben Marchant, the new high school principal here in Show Low. Welcome. Ben, it's good to see you. Glad to have you here today. Start us out by telling us a little bit about yourself, your upbringing, your school, your career. Just tell us about yourself.
Yeah, well, I was born and raised here on the mountain. I went to kindergarten and preschool here in Show Low. My mom was my kindergarten teacher. She taught here in Show Low for over 35 years and still is substituting in the classrooms and working hard. But I went the rest, first grade through 12th grade, I went to Blue Ridge High School, was a graduate from there, and then went on to NAU, got my undergrad in secondary education with an emphasis in mathematics. I just, about my junior or senior year of high school, about when most kids start really thinking what are they going to do with their lives and what sort of career do they want to have, it was pretty obvious to me that I needed to enter into education. It was just something that I felt passionate about, and mathematics was just kind of my route to do that. It was a content that I was strongest in, always growing up, and so that's what I went into. And so then when I was at NAU, the small town stuff, Mr. Adams, I didn't know him. I had never met him in my life. And next thing I know, I'm doing my student teaching over in Flagstaff, and I get a call on my cell phone from this random number, and it's Mr. Adams. And he had heard from my mom through someone else that I was graduating with a math teaching degree. And so he called me up, and he said, you know what, we need some math teachers. Why don't you come apply? And, being a Blue Ridge graduate, I thought, I'm not going to go apply at Show Low, and but sure enough, I thought, what the heck, maybe it'd be good practice or something, get an interview out of the way. And so I went and interviewed at Show Low, and I knew about right away that it was a place that I needed to be. It was just great facilities, great people there. Mr. Adams obviously was fantastic and worked well with me through the whole interview process and everything. And I knew that he was the type of teacher and a type of leader that I would want to follow and learn underneath. And so, so I took the position and haven't turned back since. I taught math for 4 years at Show Low while working on getting my master's in secondary. My master's is in ed leadership online. And so finished that up and entered as an assistant principal 4 years into teaching math. I didn't necessarily plan for it to be that soon. I could have continued teaching math for many years, but I saw it as an opportunity to, again, jump in and learn under such a great leader as Mr. Adams. And so I applied and got the position and was the assistant principal at the high school here in Show Low for 4 years there as well. And then Mr. Adams went to retire this year, and again, I felt ready to move on to the next step and take this step as principal at Show Low High School. So just other personal things that have happened along the way. I've got a beautiful wife, Marilyn, who is pregnant with our second child. We've got a son. He's almost 2 years old, but he's built like he's about 4 or 5, and is just as smart and funny as all get out. And then we've got, she's in about 2.5, 3 weeks here. She's gonna give birth to a daughter. So, nice. So we'll have one each for now and just kind of see where it goes from there. But my parents still live up here on the mountain and great babysitters. Yeah,
very good. So as I hear you talk, the thing that impresses me is that we've got a homegrown kid, and we've got tons of kids here on the mountain, and I just love the fact that you realized in midway through high school what you wanted to do or a direction you wanted to go, and then I'm assuming that there were a lot of people, a lot of mentors in your high school that helped you and led you in that direction. And I'm just excited that you're the guy now that's going to be in a position to do that. So where did you get your master's, by the way?
I got it through American College of Education.
Okay, cool.
It's just an online program for
Good. So
educators.
It's obvious you got that in leadership, which means that you had an eye towards being a leader in administration in the district. So can you tell us any more besides what you've told us already about moving from just being a teacher into wanting a leadership role as an assistant principal and now the new principal?
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is, when I go back to when I was junior, senior year in high school, like I just described, I never had any intention of becoming an administrator. I don't know if that's ever really something that people have in their mind, that they want to be a principal. Maybe some people, I don't know. But as I started to get into education in general, I really started to see that my strengths were just leading out of the classroom. I feel that I was an effective teacher. I know that the students that I had loved my class, and I really enjoyed it as well. But I just knew long term, I have more of a passion for the big picture kind of stuff, if that makes sense.
No, that totally makes sense.
And even when I was a soccer coach, I didn't even mention that. I was a head soccer coach for the boys for 3 years when I was back when I was teaching as well, and I absolutely loved that. And when I look at when I was a soccer coach, I didn't necessarily have a passion in taking one student and sitting there working on, passing with the inside of the foot and, shooting with the top of the foot and, going over that for hours and hours. I would do that and I was good at it, but I wasn't passionate about it. And what I was passionate about was the big picture coaching stuff. What sort of formations are we using? How are we molding and unifying as a team as the season goes on? What does the off-season plan look like? And all those sort of things. What sort of coaches am I developing and bringing in with me? How are we getting the parents involved in the booster club? That was the stuff that I was passionate about and I really, really enjoyed doing. And so I started to see that in my teaching career as well. And I thought, the more, and again, I would talk with Mr. Adams about this regularly and say, what are you seeing? Do you see, can you see me in the classroom for all these years, or should I start looking at going into leadership? And that's when I started to steer that direction and chose to get that degree in ed leadership, just in case it went that way. And then, but yeah, mostly that's what it stems around is that. And I still do everything that I can to be in the trenches, so to speak, with the kids. I mean, I volunteered and as an assistant coach for soccer over the last several years. I taught even a class as assistant principal. I loved that. I taught a first hour algebra class, just as much as I could to still be involved at the student level and remember what that's like and to have those experiences. So, and I'll continue to do that as principal. I'll find ways to be right there with the students.
That's great. So, I've met a lot of teachers, been around a lot of teachers, and I've seen those who really, the biggest effect that they can have on the children are one-on-one in the classroom. And
Yep.
I've met those very similar to you, where the biggest effect you can have on the children is from an administrative point of view. And that's the way things are. And so I'm really pleased that you've recognized that and that you've moved there. You talk about big picture goals. I want to know your vision. I want to know your vision for the high school.
Well, before I get to the vision, I got to kind of set it up a little bit.
Okay.
Right, is that fine?
That's fine. Great.
Okay. So one of the things about vision, and honestly what I think is the fun part, is you get to sit back and see, okay, what is the perfect school? What would be the perfect scenario? How would the facilities look? How would the staff behave? How would the students behave? How would the administration interact with them? How would they perform on a state level? There's so many things when you step back and say, what is the best perfect school? And then at the same time, you have to step back and look at all right, you got to be honest with yourselves and say, where are we going wrong? You know, what is preventing us from reaching that final step? And one thing you need to know about me, and I kind of have said it so far, is my mind is always working like this. Okay, you can ask my mom or my dad since I was in second grade. I would come home and be evaluating these bigger picture things and saying, "Hey, Mom, why did my teacher do that assignment? And Dad, why did you treat me that way? And why did you set it up? You know, whether it was something that worked or something that didn't work." My mind is constantly evaluating and going, okay, what made that happen? What was behind the scenes that kind of made that? So that's kind of how my mind's always working. And a lot of times I got to try to shut it down to sleep at night. And so really over the last 8 years that I've been in the district, I've been asking these questions. Is what does the perfect school look like? And what are we not doing or doing that's preventing us from getting there?
How are you going to make it happen?
It starts with the students, but there's that belief that everything is just there because it has to be there. There's really that drive to want to be there, or that you need to be there, that it's important to be there to learn and all these things. So
we're starting to live in a world where you're going to be left behind. We're really becoming so global that you need to be there and you need to get that education in order to support yourself, your family, and the things you want to do in life, right?
Which, in my opinion, even furthers that belief that, well, now you have to be there because we got to keep up with every other country and every other state. And so it's just furthering that belief that this is just a forced thing that we're making kids do. And so really, truly, what starts to happen is when the students start believing that way, whether they even notice it or not, they probably don't even acknowledge that it's there. But they start believing that way, and then what happens is we've gone like this for so many years that the parents have this belief system now.
Does that lead to complacency?
Absolutely. And so the parents now, they feel like their kid just has to be in school, and then even worse yet, the staff. Your teaching staff, they start having this belief that, well, this kid has to be in my class and he has to pass my test. And so he's gonna have to do all these things that I ask of him just because I said so. And so there's this culture that starts developing where there's no true passion and true enjoyment of wanting to be there, right? And so it really is no surprise to hear that teachers are, one of the number one teacher complaints is that the kids don't care anymore. I'm sure you've heard that. They don't care. They don't want to come in extra and study or any of that. So that's kind of
how are we gonna get over this? Obviously it sounds to me like you're wanting to change culture.
Yeah.
You're wanting to change
Yep.
it. So what are you gonna do?
So this is where the vision starts, and here's what the vision is. We want to become a school where all students would want to go to learn, even if they didn't have to.
So, say it again. You're telling me you want to change the culture where every student wants to go to Show Low High School to learn, even if they don't have to. They want to be there.
Yep.
Tell me more about it.
It's as simple as that. And I got to point out a couple of words in there. The first word in the vision I want to point out is the word all. Okay? That all students, it's a place where all students would go to learn, even if they didn't have to. And that's important because, and honestly, this is the biggest challenge too, when you think about public education, because all students are going to be there, whether you like it or not. And so you have to create this culture where all students want to be there, not just your athletes, not just the accelerated students, the kids that are good in math or particularly good in English or writing, all students. And so that's the first challenge.
So we're looking at a wide demographic of kids, and how do you create that school where they're all going to want to come? I mean, why are they? I mean, in my mind, I'm even thinking, there's a lot of options now.
So
places you can go to school.
So that's kind of where I got to slow you down, all right? And that's where a lot of people want to jump. They want to say, well, how is that even possible? How are you going to create this school where all students want to learn? And here's the thing about vision. Vision is all about the wow, not the how. I know it's corny that it rhymes, but it's true. The vision is all about wow. So they want to be a school where all students would go to learn, even if they didn't have to. It's not about, okay, well, how are they going to get that done? That's the challenge for us as a staff to grow and develop and in each particular area. And if it was easy, if answering the how was easy, it wouldn't be a good vision because we'd already be there. And so this vision will absolutely push Show Low High School to an area where we have to stretch ourselves and say, okay, well, how are we going to get there? And then if we ever arrive at this vision, then we're going to have to change it so that it pushes us even further, right?
Right.
So
what's your is there another word you want to emphasize in your vision?
Yeah, so the first word that I pointed out was the word all. We want all students to be a part of this. Now, the second word that I have to point out is the word learn. Because if we didn't include that in the vision, right, if it was just a place where all students would go, even if they didn't want to, right, now we're talking Disneyland.
Right.
Because now it's just a place where all students just want to go. And that's besides the point here, because fact of the matter is we're a school. We're a school, and this is a place where learning happens. And so we have to be more specific and create this environment where all students would go to learn and have that emphasis. If we didn't focus on learning, then, all is lost.
So do we, obviously we have an online portion to our high school, and is this going to include that?
So yes, I mean this vision can stretch to all functions, departments, people, everyone within the school system. Think about, for example, like the foods department, right? How would this vision impact them? Being a place where all students would want to go to learn. So they're going to want to have good food. They're going to want to have a nice, safe environment. What about how this impacts athletics? You're going to want to have all the programs. Students that maybe are really passionate about soccer. If we didn't have a soccer program or a successful one with great coaches, they wouldn't want to come to Show Low to learn.
Right.
Because we wouldn't offer those, and so it speaks into that. And then, like you mentioned, think about WMI, White Mountain Institute, or White Mountain Institute Virtual Academy. Absolutely, it speaks into those because those are our alternative schools, and the whole point of them really is for students that don't fit into the Show Low High School mold. There's some things that we just can't change, and so if there's always a pocket of students that just don't fit into that mold, we understand that, and so that's why we have to have the White Mountain Institute and the White Mountain Institute Virtual Academy. Both those have to align to this vision as well to help service all students.
So the big question for me is how do you get the students to buy into this? What's their role? How do you get them involved? How do you get them to accept this and want to be a part of it?
So this takes me to another thing. We got time?
We got 4 minutes.
We got 4 minutes. All right. So students are in a weird position, right? Because in one sense, they are the customers, right? It's why the school is there. We're there to serve them. It's all about them. If it wasn't for students, we wouldn't even exist, right? So they are the customers, but at the same time, they can also be considered like staff. And I know that sounds weird because they're not getting a paycheck, so they're not staff in the normal sense of what you think about. But imagine, think about like if you went to Los Corrales or the House, right? Restaurant in town, something like that. Your experience is going to be based off of the food, right? And the physical facilities and everything. but in large part, your experience is going to be based off of the staff there, right? Now, think about a school. It's the same thing. A school has an image, and yes, part of that image is developed based on your physical facilities, and it's based on your staff. You know, you have how are the teachers and that sort of stuff. But I would argue, in large part, probably the largest part, would be the students. You know, when you think about every school that we have up here on the mountain, and really every school everywhere, they all have an image. And part of that, from outside view or even inside view, it is developed by the students. How are the students behaving? How are they performing? How are they, you know, everything. It's all centered around the students. So really, when you boil it down to it and you look at it, yeah, the students are our customers, but at the same time, they're the largest part of selling what we do and developing that culture that we have. And so, whereas like, you know, my brother, he runs a sheet metal factory. If he wants to change his setup, he just makes better, he just fabricates better sheet metal, right? And whereas here, we have to have the sheet metal has to buy into this as well. Yeah. And so the students have to get a buy-in. And what we're going to do in this first year to really get that out is we're starting what we're going to call an all-in movement. All right? And this all-in movement is going to be based around 4 key principles. All right? And so this will be for the students. And so the students, in order for students to be all in, like then I'm all into Sholo, they're going to have 4 components. The first one is they need to be in class. The second one is they need to be invested. The third one is they need to be involved. And the fourth component is ultimately they need to become independent.
So you've got this all-in movement. I want to know more. I want to know specifics.
Okay. Like I was just saying, you know, as a staff, our goal is to create this environment where all students would go to learn even if they didn't have to. And we are going to commit to that as a staff. And now we're asking the students to come in alongside us and commit to being all in as well. And so what it looks like for them are these 4 elements. And like I said, the first one is to be in class. Now, I got to be frank, we've got a little bit of an attendance problem. All right? And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if the students are not in class, then they're not going to be learning. They can't pick up any of the content.
Can't be successful.
Right? There's zero chance of being successful if you're not in class. And so our number one focus right off the bat is getting the highest attendance rates possible. Okay? And so we are going to make a big push for students being in class. Now, the second one is they need to be invested. So it's one thing to be in class, but then if you're just in class sitting there doing nothing, you know, breathing free air from Shola High School, then that's not really being all in either. And so we are going to invite our students to be invested in their learning. And so what that looks like is really, truly, it's foreign to a lot of students. They don't know what it truly looks like to be invested. And it's things like just as simple as, you know, taking notes as the teacher's writing things down. Or if you're confused, raising your hand and asking a question. You know, all of those things are being invested in your learning. And the third component for a student to be all in is, like I said, it was to be involved. And, you know, we can cite whatever we want here, but fact of the matter is the more that students are involved, the more successful they are. That is one of the strongest links that you can find out there to, you know, graduation rates, attendance rates, everything. The more that students are involved, the more they feel part of our culture, the more they feel part and unified with the rest of their classmates. And so whether it's joining the football team or joining the robotics club or joining the fishing club.
Fishing club,
right?
Yeah.
So who wouldn't want that, right?
That's right.
Even, you know, little things like that, they go a long way in helping student success at school and the other components. And then the final one is independent. We're Sholo High School. We are not Sholo Elementary School or even Sholo Middle School. We're Sholo High School. And whether the students like it or not, this is their last step before that big jump to freedom. And I feel that if we do not prepare them to be independent, then we failed. So if we teach them everything about math, and we teach them everything about construction or whatever program that they're in, and yet they have not learned and grown in independence as a student and as a person, then they will not be successful, and then we failed them. And so that is another one of the components to being all in. Great.
So Ben, we've reached our time limit here, but
Okay.
if you're okay with it, I want to invite parents to come and see you,
Absolutely.
to learn a little more about what we talked today, a little more
Absolutely.
in depth, how they can be part of the program, how they can help all of this. So I'm going to make that invitation here today.
Absolutely, please
and,
do.
And I want to tell you how thankful I am that you came on and visited with us today. Hopefully we'll have a chance to visit again. Maybe midterm or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
We can have you on again, and we can check up and see how things are going.
Yeah.
All right.
See where
Cool.
we're at.
Thanks. Appreciate it, man.
You bet.
Good luck, and we'll be rooting for you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us here on the School Zone, and we'll see you again soon.